Even when your heart is heavy, even when your body is tired, even when your inner voice is pleading with you to stop, you say yes to avoid guilt, to avoid tension, to avoid the fear of being seen as difficult. But in doing so, you trade your clarity for comfort. You trade your peace for approval. But saying no is not rejection. It is self-direction. It is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of alignment. When you say no, you're not turning your back on others. You are turning toward yourself. You are listening to what is right for you in that moment. You are practicing something most people avoid their entire lives. Self-discipline. Discipline is not about restriction. It is about remembrance. It is remembering your values, your priorities, your vision, and choosing to act in harmony with them even when it's uncomfortable. And this is where many fall short. The nice girl wants to be liked. She wants to avoid friction. So she silences her truth to be accepted. But understand this clearly. Being agreeable all the time does not make you kind. It makes you invisible. And eventually, the very people you try to please stop seeing your boundaries as valuable because you never truly showed them. To say no requires courage, but more than that, it requires presence. You must be present enough with yourself to feel what is true and firm enough to communicate that truth. This doesn't mean being harsh. It means being honest. It means not diluting your voice to avoid discomfort. It means recognizing that every time you betray your inner knowing just to maintain an image, you're building a life that may look peaceful on the outside but feels heavy on the inside. It is not your job to make everyone comfortable. It is your responsibility to make yourself clear. And clarity is not cruel. It is compassionate. When you say no with integrity, you're not closing doors. You're directing energy. You're not rejecting others. You're respecting yourself. And that respect teaches people how to treat you. It teaches them that your time has value. Your space has meaning. Your presence is not a given. It is a gift. But what if they leave? What if they get upset? These are the questions that haunt a nice girl, but consider this. If someone only stays when you abandon your truth, are they truly staying for you or for the version of you that doesn't challenge them, that doesn't speak up, that makes life easier for them at the cost of your own well-being? Your voice was not given to you to decorate silence. It was given to you to draw lines when necessary, to create structure, to protect what matters. Saying no is not about becoming hard. It's about becoming real. It's about standing in your truth without apology. Knowing that your worth is not tied to how much you do for others, but how deeply you honor yourself. Because in the end, the most powerful person in any room is not the loudest or the nicest. It is the one who can say no with peace in their heart and no need to explain. There's a subtle trap that many fall into without even realizing it. The need to be validated, the need to hear someone say, "You did well," or "You made the right choice." And for the nice girl, this need becomes a quiet addiction. She doesn't just want to be liked, she needs to be affirmed. Her sense of value begins to depend on external confirmation. Was I good enough? Did I make them happy? Did they approve of what I said or did? But when your sense of self is built on validation, you lose your center. You start performing instead of living. You adjust your words, your actions, even your dreams, not because they are right for you, but because they will win you applause. You walk into a room and scan faces for approval. You post something and check for likes. You hold back your truth, not because it's wrong, but because it might not be received well. This is not confidence. This is captivity. What happens when that validation doesn't come? What happens when the praise is silent? When no one claps, when your efforts go unseen, suddenly your mood drops, your energy fades, you question your worth, and that is the cost of living externally. You become unstable internally. It is a dangerous game to base your peace on opinions that are ever-changing, inconsistent, and often rooted in other people's own fears. Seeking validation is not the same as seeking alignment. Alignment asks, is this in harmony with who I truly am? Validation asks, will others accept this version of me? One comes from within, the other is borrowed, and anything borrowed must be returned. That's why even when you receive praise, it feels fleeting. You're happy for a moment, then you're empty again. So you go out and try harder, do more just to feel whole again. But true wholeness doesn't come from being accepted by others. It comes from being at peace with yourself. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment you begin to walk freely. You no longer need to shape-shift to be enough. You no longer weigh your worth on how others react. Instead, you begin to ask deeper questions. Does this feel right in my body? Am I being honest with myself? Is this how I want to show up, regardless of who's watching? And when those answers are yes, you walk in integrity even if no one claps. It's not easy to break the habit. Validation feels safe. It gives you the illusion of certainty. But you must ask yourself, are you living a life that is truly yours or one designed to keep others happy? Are your choices born from inner clarity or are they performances crafted to avoid criticism? There is a quiet power in being misunderstood and remaining unshaken. There is strength in no longer explaining yourself, in no longer needing someone else to say yes, you're doing it right, because deep down you already know. And when you live from that knowing, you become solid, steady, unbothered by praise or criticism, because both become irrelevant when you are aligned. Let go of the need to be seen in a certain light. Instead, focus on becoming the kind of person who moves with truth even in darkness, because validation fades. But alignment lasts. Most people misunderstand conflict. They see it as something negative, something to avoid at all costs, especially the nice girl. She believes that silence equals peace, that not speaking up is keeping things calm, that swallowing her discomfort is an act of love. But what she doesn't realize is that avoidance doesn't create peace, it only creates distance from others. When you avoid conflict, you avoid clarity. You let small misunderstandings become quiet resentments. You let repeated patterns go unchecked because confronting them feels too uncomfortable. And over time, this silence builds pressure until one day it shows up. Not as strength, but as stress, as tears behind closed doors, as a smile that feels more like a mask. You think you're keeping harmony, but really, you're just delaying the truth. Conflict is not chaos. It is communication. It is an opportunity to express what matters to you. It is a test of whether the connection is strong enough to hold honesty. And honesty doesn't always come wrapped in gentle words. Sometimes it's direct, sometimes it's raw, but it is always more respectful than pretending. Avoiding conflict is often about fear. Fear of being rejected, misunderstood, labeled as too much. So the nice girl becomes agreeable. She nods when she wants to challenge. She laughs when she wants to pause. She says it's fine when her heart is shouting, this hurts. And by doing so, she trains the world to overlook her truth. But there is nothing wrong with discomfort. Growth lives there. Connection lives there. If a relationship, whether personal, professional, or otherwise, cannot handle disagreement, then it is not built on anything solid. Real connection is not maintained through silence. It is deepened through vulnerability, through saying this is how I feel and giving space for the other to do the same. You can disagree with grace. You can express anger without aggression. You can set boundaries without building walls. The difference is presence. When you are present with your emotions, you don't let them control you, but you also don't deny them. You allow them to guide you toward clarity. The goal is not to win every argument. The goal is to stop abandoning yourself in the name of keeping the peace. Because if peace costs you your voice, it's not peace, it's quiet suffering. You were not created to be a cushion for other people's comfort. You were created to be whole. And wholeness includes the ability to face discomfort with courage. You may find that when you begin speaking up, some people don't like it. They may call you difficult, sensitive, or cold. But understand their resistance is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that your truth is disrupting a dynamic that once depended on your silence. Disruption is not destruction. It is realignment. Speak your truth not to prove a point, but to honor your inner world. Speak not to dominate, but to clarify, to allow yourself to be seen clearly rather than constantly reshaping yourself to be accepted. And if your truth causes discomfort, let it. Because discomfort is often the first step toward deeper understanding. There is more power in an honest conversation than in a lifetime of pretending everything is fine. Pleasing others may feel like connection, but is often a slow erasure of the self. A nice girl believes that if she can just do enough, give enough, say the right thing, meet every need, then she will be loved. That being liked will bring her peace. That being accommodating will keep her safe. So she adjusts, she softens her edges, she blends in. She becomes what others need her to be. But each time she does this, she moves further away from her own center. There is a cost to constant pleasing, and it isn't always visible. It shows up as exhaustion that can't be explained as a quiet frustration. You can't name as moments where you look in the mirror and feel like a stranger to yourself. Because the truth is, when you shapeshift too often, you forget your original form. You lose the sound of your own voice underneath the noise of everyone else's expectations. You start to believe that keeping others happy is your job. That if someone is disappointed or upset, it must mean you failed. So you rush to fix, to smooth over, to absorb the discomfort even when it was never yours to carry. No one respects the woman who never says no. They may take advantage of her, praise her convenience, admire her willingness, but deep respect that only comes when you stand firm in your truth, even if it ruffles feathers. When your actions are driven by the desire to be liked, your presence becomes diluted. People may enjoy your company, but they don't feel your power, and that's because your energy isn't rooted. It's floating, constantly adjusting to meet someone else's standard. Presence isn't built through pleasing. It's built through clarity, through knowing who you are, what you value, and what you're no longer available for. There's a difference between being kind and being compliant. One comes from strength, the other from fear. True kindness has boundaries. It has discernment. It's not afraid to say, I care about you, but I will not betray myself to make you comfortable. That kind of honesty creates deeper relationships. Not surface-level harmony, but genuine connection. You were not put here to be easy to digest. You are not a product to be packaged and sold for acceptance. You are a living, breathing expression of truth. And that truth deserves to take up space without constantly shrinking to make room for others. Your value is not in how much you give away. It's in how deeply you remain rooted while giving. It's in how you honor your own needs. Even while caring for others, people learn how to treat you through the standards you set. If you always bend, they will never learn to meet you where you are. If you never speak up, they will assume silence means consent. And if you continually abandon yourself, they will begin to believe that you don't matter, even if they never say it out loud. But when you stop pleasing and start showing up as your full honest self, something powerful happens. The right people will stay, the wrong ones will fall away. And in their place, you create space for relationships built on truth, not performance. Pleasing may earn temporary affection, but presence earns lasting respect. Being liked has become a silent obsession. From an early age, many women are taught to be pleasing, to be sweet, to be palatable, to fit in, to be chosen, to be praised. So you learn to filter your words, soften your tone, hold back your truth, all in the name of being accepted. And for a while, it seems to work. You're agreeable. You're admired. People say you're so easy to be around. But underneath that comfort, something begins to ache. Because being liked isn't the same as being known. It's not the same as being respected. The nice girl wants to be liked, she wants to belong. But in chasing that, she forgets who she is without the performance. Her choices become filtered through the lens of what will be received well. She hesitates to speak, not because she has nothing to say, but because she's afraid it might make someone uncomfortable. She hides her edges not because they're wrong, but because she's been told they're too much. And the tragedy is in trying to be everything to everyone, she becomes no one to herself. But life is not about being liked. That's a fragile goal, one that shifts depending on the mood, the moment, the audience. You can be kind and still be disliked. You can be honest and still be judged. You can be quiet and still be misunderstood. No matter how carefully you move, someone will always have an opinion. And if your worth depends on those opinions, you will never feel stable. You will always be adjusting, always be proving, always be performing. There is a quiet strength in no longer needing to be liked. It doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means you no longer mold yourself for temporary acceptance. It means you speak not to impress but to express. You live not to entertain but to align. And in doing so, you stop chasing connection and begin creating it from a place of truth. Respect is not built through pleasing. It's built through presence, through integrity, through the ability to stand in your truth even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. People respect the ones who are not afraid to be seen fully, flaws and all, not because they're perfect, but because they are real, because they have the courage to take off the mask. Yes, being liked feels good, but it fades. It's external, and when it's gone, you are left asking, who am I without their approval? That's why the deeper work is to like yourself, to trust yourself, to live in a way that even if no one claps, even if no one notices, you still feel at peace because you know you stayed true. You don't need to be everyone's favorite. You don't need to be easily understood. You just need to be whole. Toshi. And wholeness means being willing to disappoint others if it means being honest with yourself. It means being okay with someone misunderstanding your silence, your boundary, your distance, because you know it came from clarity, not cruelty. Not everyone will like you. That's not a failure. It's freedom, because it means you are no longer here to perform. You are here to live, to lead, to love with depth, not decoration. You are not here to be liked, though especially when it's inconvenient. That's the real test. It's easy to be authentic when everyone claps, when the room nods in agreement, when your truth aligns with what people want to hear. But authenticity isn't about convenience, and it isn't about popularity. People don't respect perfection, they respect realness. They respect the ones who are not afraid to be fully seen, flaws and all. Not because these people never make mistakes, but because they have the courage to remove the mask. Yes, being liked feels good. Approval is comforting, validation can be intoxicating, and applause is a sweet sound, but it fades. It's external, and once it disappears, you are left with the most important question. Who am I without their approval? If your worth is tied only to how others see you, then their silence will feel like rejection. Their criticism will feel like collapse. That is why the deeper, harder work is not about chasing acceptance, but about learning to accept yourself, to like yourself, to trust yourself. There is a kind of peace that comes when you live in such a way that even if no one notices, even if no one claps, you are still proud of who you are. You go to sleep at night with a quiet confidence, not because the world crowned you, but because you stay true. That kind of peace cannot be taken away because it doesn't depend on someone else's applause. It depends on your own alignment. You don't need to be everyone's favorite. You don't need to be the easiest to understand. Life is not a stage where you perform for constant approval. What you really need is wholeness. And wholeness often requires the courage to disappoint others if that's the price of being honest with yourself. It requires being okay when someone misunderstands your silence, your boundary, or your distance, because you know your choices came from clarity, not cruelty. Not everyone will like you, and that's not a failure, it's freedom. It frees you from bending yourself into shapes that don't fit, from over-explaining choices that need no justification, from performing when all you want is to live. When you let go of needing universal approval, you create space for something much deeper, truth. You stop living for decoration and start living for depth. This is not about becoming careless or cold. It's about becoming authentic. When you release the need to be liked, you begin to live, to lead, and to love in a way that's rooted in strength, not fear. And ironically, the people who matter most will be drawn to that honesty. They won't love you because you performed well, they'll love you because you were real. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be whole, to be free, to live in truth, and to let the truth become your legacy. You don't need to be everyone's favorite. You don't need to be universally understood. Life is not a stage designed for endless performance. What you need, what will set you free, is wholeness. And wholeness requires the courage to disappoint others if that's the price of staying authentic. It requires the willingness to let people misinterpret your silence, your boundaries, or your distance. Because you know those choices were born from clarity, not cruelty. Not everyone will like you, and that is not a failure, it is freedom. Freedom from the exhausting pressure of being what everyone else wants. Freedom from reshaping yourself into a version that pleases others but betrays you. Freedom from performing when all you really want is to live. When you release the need for universal approval, you step into a deeper truth. You stop decorating your life for applause and instead begin to live with depth, with meaning, with authenticity. This isn't about being careless or cold, it's about being rooted. It's about walking with honesty, even when it costs you comfort. And here's the paradox. When you stop performing to be liked, you actually draw closer the people who truly matter. They won't love you for the mask you wore, but for the courage you showed by taking it off. They'll value your honesty, your integrity, your wholeness. So let this be a reminder, you are not here to be liked. You are not here to earn everyone's approval. You are here to be whole, to be free, to live in such a way that even in silence, even when misunderstood, even when alone, you still feel at peace. Because you know you stayed true. That is the kind of life that leaves a legacy.